In the middle of this week's Torah portion of Pinchas, Moshe, is forced to adjudicate a difficult question involving the laws of inheritance. And he does so with God's assistance, of course. Thereafter, God tells him that soon he's going to die. And immediately thereafter, Moshe asks God to appoint a new leader to take over for him. And he gives God some qualifications by way of request, because he wants to make sure that the Jews have the proper new leader. Rashi, the great commentator, tells us that there's more going on here than meets the eye. Moshe has just decided a case involving inheritances. God has told Moshe, you're going to die soon. So Moshe thinks to himself, well, now it's time for me to worry about my legacy. So I'm going to ask God to appoint my successor, and I'm going to nominate my own sons to take over for me. And so you hear that and you think, what? Nepotism? Moshe? I mean, it goes on all the time. Somebody in a position of power wants their kid to take over for them, even if the kid is underqualified or unqualified. But can you really say that if Moshe is involved? Is there any question that he certainly had the best interests of the Jewish people involved? And if that's the case, then you know that his sons were not under or unqualified. They were supremely qualified. In fact, they may even have been more talented than Joshua, the person that God picks instead of them. They may have been natural-born leaders. But no, God says to Moshe, I didn't have your sons in mind. I had Joshua in mind. He's going to take over for you. Why? Rashi tells us. Because as we're told in Exodus chapter 33, Joshua never left the tent, Moshe's tent, the tent of meeting, the tent of study. So that sounds like Joshua was the ultimate raiser, the gunner, the guy who'd spend more time in the library than anybody else. Before the teacher finished asking the question, he's already got his hand up in the air. But that's selling Moshe's sons a little short. Who knows? Maybe they also put in the hours of effort, of toil in study, so that they could become great leaders. But we're told that Joshua had an additional quality. When he spent all those hours in the tent, it wasn't just to study. He was the guy that would arrive and would make sure to set up the chairs and the tables and the couches, to make sure that everyone had a place in which to sit, in which to study. And God noticed that. He saw his sensitivity for others and said, that's the guy that I want to be the next leader of the Jewish people. We all know the type of person. May not be the wealthiest who gives the most charity, may not be the most politically connected, may not be the most charismatic, may not be in a position of leadership at all. It's the guy who stays after the Little League game ends to pick up all the cups and bottles and cans and makes sure that no kid left behind a hat or a mitt or a bat. It's the person who's always willing to change carpools with you. Somebody who's always willing to lend a hand to make sure that somebody has a meal, to give somebody a ride, to visit the sick, to help make a schedule, the volunteers, the unsung heroes. They may not get the plaudits. They may not get the honor. They may not get the positions of leadership. They may not get the publicity. People may not know their names, but we know who they are. We know who you are. And certainly, up in heaven, on the celestial scorecard, every single year, those unsung heroes, the ones who are always looking out for the others, the ones who, when they go to get a chair for themselves, they get 2 or 3 chairs, one for you and one for you and one for you. They're the ones that make the all-star team every single year.